Hi, we have so much to catch up on. I am just turning on the baby monitor because Remy is sleeping right now, so I'm gonna talk fast because Clayton is out with Nico right now. Nico's getting a haircut, and you can tell I just sound so congested right now because we've been dealing with sickness for the past week. It's just been like a nutty month in general. We had 2 different visitors back to back, which is really fun, but just like a lot when you have like 2 little kids and you're still trying to like work and be in your routine. But it's also been really fun just to like show people where we live and enter into that era of like people starting to visit us here in our new home. Gosh, I really like can't hear because last week Remy got like his first real fever. And it was kind of stressing me out. So I went into a doctor. It was like my first Dutch doctor experience since officially moving here. And it actually went really well. I was a bit nervous because my past experiences with the Dutch doctors and just what I've heard in general is that they're very chill in a way that can be kind of frustrating. Like if you actually have a problem, you kind of have to like make it sound worse than it is, or like really convince them that you need help. Anyway, we ended up texting a friend and be like, hey, she's like in the neighborhood, literally on our street actually. And we were like, who's your GP? She gave us the name and I just like walked in. They are at the end of our street, which is incredible to be able to walk to the doctor in 2 minutes. Like I literally had Remy in a baby carrier on me and we just walked in. I was like, they're probably not gonna see me. Like I didn't have an appointment. I'm not registered with them. But I just turned on, you know, some charm and I was just very chatty and very just like honest, where I was just like, hey, I just moved here. I have 2 young kids. My baby has a fever. It's pretty high. I'm stressed. Is there any way a doctor can just like look at him? Thank God the lady at the front desk was just like so sweet. She was like older than me and just had this like very nurturing energy. She's also a mom, she said. And like we were just at first she was like, honey, like the doctors aren't gonna see you, like you don't, like we're not accepting new patients, whatever. So we keep talking and she was like, let me just talk to the doctors and let me just see if they can do like a quick check. I was like, can you just like listen to his lungs, like look in his ears? I just wanna make sure I'm not like missing something. So they got me in and it was these 2 like really sweet Dutch women. I really just feel like I was so lucky to find them. And they definitely were still very Dutch in the fact that they were like, yeah, like if the fever is under 40, which is like 104 Fahrenheit, it's not that big of a deal. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Like anything like over like 101 really stresses me out. Like you felt very hot. It's like, nah, dude, he's fine. Like if he's fussy, you can give him paracetamol, which is like Tylenol. But if he's not fussy, just let the fever do its thing. And I was like, well, do you want to test him and like make sure it's not like strep? And they were like, yeah, even if it's strep, like we wouldn't do an antibiotic. And I was just like, all right, respect. Like they honestly were just so chill and they were like, here's the signs to look for. If things start going hairy, like you can go into urgent care or whatever, or call us, but he should be fine. And obviously there's like caveats to this. Like if your child, if you're genuinely worried about them and you have this very strong intuition that something's off, you obviously want a doctor who's going to take you very seriously and be like, hey, let's do all the testing. In my particular situation at this time, it was actually really comforting to have doctors that were just like, girl, he's gonna be okay. And like just monitor him, like make sure he's hydrated, like he's gonna be okay. They sent me to the like pharmacy next door. I picked up some paracetamol and they were like, as Dutch moms, just shove it up the booty. It's like a pill. You gotta put it up the butt. And I was terrified. Me, I'm used to like a syringe of, you know, yummy grape flavored Tylenol. And we have brought some from the States, but like I didn't want to run out of it. So they were like, yeah, just take the paracetamol pill, shove it up. The first time I was traumatized. It was so stressful. And I was like, girl, you gotta do it. Like you wanna be Dutch? This is part of that initiation. Am I in focus? Sorry, I just realized I probably have been like going in and out of focus. I'm not gonna lie. I am purposely backlighting myself because I got a big zit. Probably from being so stressed the past month. Oh, anyway, sorry if I'm going in and out of focus. It's better than my zit being on display. My eyebrows are also extra dark because I probably put it in the footage before this, but I went and got my eyebrows done today. I have a lady in the pipe that I really love going to. She respects the brows, you know? I like to keep them like big. I'm Lebanese. My big eyebrows are, you know, an important feature. Look who's awake! Remy! Anyway, so we are all recovering. I think we're all on the up and up. Everyone slept a little bit better last night. It was like a week of not sleeping well, but it's the weekend. I have a little bit more work to wrap up today. And then Clayton and I really need to get moving on Friendsgiving planning. We're hosting Friendsgiving on Sunday. I'm so excited. I know I've talked about this, but I feel like us moving to Amsterdam, there's been so many little things that just made me feel like it's been the right place at the right time. Like just things that like very serendipitously have happened that I'm just like, yeah, we're supposed to be here right now. And one of them has definitely been relationships and friendships that have just happened like really organically. And I feel so grateful for that because it's just really made it even better being here. Later in this vlog, I am going to sit down and chat about the details about how we moved here because I have been getting a lot of comments and DMs, especially since the election, on how we moved to Amsterdam. Now let me just say, I am not like the how-to girl for how to move to another country. Like I will give you my experience and you can learn from that, but I don't really see like my accounts as like a how to move to Amsterdam in 10 easy steps because I just don't see it that way. Like I think it's about right place, right time, and doing what's best for you and your family, for yourself. So we'll have story time later. We're just gonna hang out and play now. You wanna color? Good morning, it's the next day. I am about to sit down and order some things online. So if you're wondering what it's like to live in another country, it involves timing ordering certain things from the US when friends are coming to visit so that you can get the products that don't ship to Europe. So there are certain skincare items and makeup items that like I'm not ready to change. Like I have figured out what works for my skin. I have very like sensitive acne prone skin. So I've figured out what works for me. Not about to change it. And my skincare does not ship to Europe. So our best friends from Nashville are coming to visit the first week in December. So I need to ship them these items to pack in their suitcase and bring with us. And so I'm hoping that people come to visit us like every couple of months so that I can keep up this routine. The other thing that I'm gonna order is more Element. Clayton and I are both addicted to these electrolytes. When we went to London last month, we shipped a ton of Element to Clayton's brother and they brought it. They brought a huge gallon-sized bag that we shipped to them and this is how much is left. So if you work at Element or if you know anyone who works at Element, I am your biggest fan. Like I am obsessed. You've probably seen these before. Like everyone talks about them. No, I can't start my morning without drinking my full bottle of ice water with Element. It's electrolytes and it's just like so hydrating. I feel so thirsty if I don't start off with this. They don't ship to the Netherlands, so I have to smuggle it into the country by sending it with friends. So I'm gonna order a couple more boxes of that as well. But truly, Element, if you want to sponsor me, I could talk about Element for a long time. Addicted. So anyway, I'm gonna just hop on my laptop now, order those couple of things. I also last night made my grocery list for Friendsgiving. It's a beautiful Google Doc with hyperlinked recipes, grocery list by store, and then schedule for today and tomorrow. Do you see that smoke coming in? I just lit some incense. It's impossible for me to like not like sit down and just like set a vibe. So I lit this incense. It's so good. What is it? It's the PF candle number 29 Pignon. I'm obsessed with how this smells. We brought this from home. They probably don't ship here. Actually, I think Clayton did get some PF candle stuff recently, but that might have been a collab. Anyway, super, super good. Favorite scent. Smells like home. But yeah, so I made the grocery list. I'm gonna go to Albert Heijn. After this, I will take the camera with me if you wanna see a little bit of Albert Heijn, and I'm gonna get the bulk of our groceries there, and then we might have to go to the expat store. So there are expat stores here where they have some like grocery items from the US, and I think from the UK as well, maybe. Just stuff that you usually can't get here that feels like very American. So you go to the expat store to get it. So I'm gonna see if they maybe have like canned cranberry sauce, like some of the things that just feel like very classic. So that would actually be really fun to show you all around there. But yeah, that's the plan for today. And then later this afternoon, or maybe when the kids go to bed tonight, I'm gonna start prepping a couple of the recipes for Friendsgiving tomorrow. Christmas tea. We did it. Oh my gosh. I just got back from the grocery store. Well, it was just Albert Heijn. Albert Heijn is kind of like Kroger if you live in the Southeast, which is kind of like Vons on the West Coast, which is kind of like H-E-B if you live in the Northeast. That kind of grocery store, right?
Texas is H-E-B.
Oh, sorry. What's the one in New York?
Not Wegmans. Wegmans is nice.
Okay, maybe it's not as nice as Wegmans. Anyway, Albert Heijn is just like the normal grocery store. Then there's Eco Plaza. Eco Plaza is like a little bit more chic. It's maybe a little bit more like a Publix. Maybe even nicer. Like if you live in Nashville, it's kind of like Turnip Truck. Maybe kind of like Whole Foods-ish, I wish. So sometimes when you need more specialty items, you go to Eco Plaza. But I was able to get most of the things from Albert Heijn. And I was talking to the lady at checkout because I was like, oh my gosh, I have so much stuff. I got like 3 big bags. And I was like, I'm hosting Thanksgiving. And she was like, oh my gosh, like you always hear about that in the movies. Like that's so fun that you're doing that. I was like, I
always get everybody to like you. How do you do it?
The Dutch love me, what can I say? I'm just a chatty Cathy and they're always just like, who is this girl? Just like talking up a storm. I'm gonna make my stuffing from scratch this year because usually I get the breadcrumbs from Whole Foods that already have like the seasoning, and then I just add like sausage and celery and onions. But this year, wow. I got a big loaf of bread to make my own breadcrumbs. So we're gonna see how that goes. I also got fresh cranberries to make cranberry sauce from scratch, although if we have time, we could go by the expat store and see if they have canned cranberry sauce. But I did not find pie crust, so we might have to make the pie crust from scratch, or just do like no crust in the pumpkin pie and do more like a custard. No, what else? Oh, I could not find cornmeal. I just can't really find cornmeal anywhere, but I really want to make cornbread.
Wait, I have cornmeal.
Well, you do?
I think so.
No.
That's what, oh no, cornstarch, sorry.
Very different.
Sorry, cornstarch is very different.
Very different things. Anyway, that was a lot. That was a lot of errands. I'm freezing. I cannot hear. My ears are still plugged from this congestion. Like, literally can't hear. But that was fun.
Hope is hurting today.
Whew, but there was just something about biking home with my box seats full of Thanksgiving groceries. And like, I just saw like the leaves were all golden. And I was like, what is my life?
So fun.
I'm a mom and a wife. And I live in Amsterdam, and I just picked up groceries to host Thanksgiving for my friends in Amsterdam. Life is great. We're good.
gobble.
Wow!
Monday afternoon. It's like raining outside. I have deep conditioner in my French braids. I'm about to head to the gym and then take an everything shower tonight. So it's just like a good productive day. But yesterday was so fun. It was so busy, chaotic. As soon as people started showing up at the house, I just like didn't even think to document because it was so full, but it was just like the best feeling. It's only been 3.5 months since we moved here, and to have a house full of people who I genuinely just like really love and am excited to host was such a treat. But I wanted to chat before I head to the gym and answer some questions about how we moved to Amsterdam. I mentioned that I've been getting a lot of questions around this, and I feel like there's a lot of different topics to dive into, but I just want to give like an overview. This is definitely not like a how to move to Amsterdam tutorial. It's more of just sharing how it happened for us to give some inspiration. So in general in life, how I operate is intuitively, like taking one step at a time and seeing how things turn instead of just picking something and forcing it. So Amsterdam, not even Amsterdam, Europe has always kind of been on the radar. Ever since I was pretty young, I have always loved traveling to other countries. When I was in college, I was an au pair in Turkey. Like I would find any way to go live in another country and usually be paid to do it because I couldn't afford just to like take a gap year or something. So I was also an au pair in England, and so I just found ways to be abroad, and I always loved how that felt, and Clayton always loved the idea of living in Europe as well. So when we both lived in New York, Clayton's job was a startup that was based in Amsterdam, but there was an office in New York. So that happened serendipitously, where he just had to go to Amsterdam for some training for that job, and I went with him. When we were here together, we were both just like, wow, we love this city. Like the energy just felt so right. On paper, it's not a city that I would have ever chosen for myself. Like it's very rainy and gray outside. Like it's a city, which I usually tend to like love more nature. But in person, it just clicked, and there was just like a ping where I was like, I feel like this city, I feel like there's more to the city, you know? Also, am I just so crooked right now? Whatever. Okay, so it's always like been in the back of our minds, but you can't just like move to another country. Like it's actually quite complicated unless you are an EU citizen, like to get a visa, to make the work things, figure that out. It's really complicated. So it's one of those things that has always just been on like the dream board kind of, and then we'll just see what happens. So fast forward a bit, Clayton and I both went freelance from our jobs a couple of years ago when our first was just I guess he was a year old when we both went freelance. And so that was a moment where we owned our house in Nashville, we were both freelance with our jobs, and we had a 1-year-old. And we were like, honestly, if we're ever gonna like test out living in another country, now would be a great time. We could rent out our house while we're away. We could stay in Europe for 3 months without a visa, and we could work from anywhere. So that is when we decided to test out living in Amsterdam. We were gonna split it up and do like half the time in Portugal and half the time in the Netherlands, because Portugal is also on our list. The reason why we narrowed it down to those two is because of visa options. So again, like if you can just get a job anywhere in Europe, like go for it. But for us, being self-employed, we had to look for countries where they had a visa option that would work for if you're self-employed, you can get a visa. So depending on your situation, you really just have to look at like what visas are available per country. So if you are self-employed, so we have an LLC, any work I do with a company in the US, I'm a contractor, so they pay me through my LLC. So I am a small business owner because I own my LLC. Portugal was really good for that, and we had been there before, and you know, I really liked a lot about the country. And then the Netherlands also has a really good relationship with America for small business owners. It's called the DAFT visa, D-A-F-T. So we were like, okay, let's just try out both of them. But we ended up feeling like that would be like a little bit too much to, we kind of wanted to just feel more settled in one place when we were testing things out. So we decided just to do the Netherlands and then just do like a long trip to Portugal. We ended up deciding to do Amsterdam just because like this season of life with our careers and parenting, we actually did want to be in a city. And Amsterdam is really unique in the fact that it is a very like bustling city. It feels very cultured, like it feels like the aspects of New York and London that I really love, where there's just people from everywhere. It's every like shop and store and restaurant that you could possibly want here. So I love that feeling of being able to just like step outside my door and I'm like in a city. But it also feels like a small town. Like you can bike across the entire city in probably like 30 minutes, which is crazy because after living in New York, I mean, you couldn't even bike from like one neighborhood in Brooklyn to the other in 30 minutes. So just like the size makes it feel so homey, and just like the energy and the pace and the architecture makes it feel like a small town. So for us, it feels like the best of both worlds, where we get that like big city culture, international energy that's really great for our careers right now and just keeping us, I think with young kids, I really like being in a city because I can just walk outside the door and take them to a playground and take them to an activity and be around people, which is really nice for my energy. But I also wanted things to feel a little bit more calm. I love New York, but just the intensity of like raising my kids in New York right now is not something that I would choose unless I had to be there for work. So that is why we ultimately chose it. Portugal sounds wonderful. Maybe in the future when we're older and you want to like have a house near the sea and like slow things down in life a bit and just be more in nature. But I was worried I would feel a little bit more angsty in that setting and a little bit like it might be more challenging to make friends and just feel as stimulated. And my energy is very interesting where I'm like an extroverted introvert. I really need both. Like I need city and I need nature. And I really find I get that here. So we did not move here for the weather. Everyone would always like warn us of the weather. Like it's gonna be an interesting winter. This morning, for example, I don't think the sun really came up until like 8:30. Like it was pitch dark when I woke up until yeah, like 8 is when the sun really starts coming out, and it's only November. So I know that we're gonna have a really dark winter. It's gonna be rainy. We have to like bike and walk everywhere. Again though, like after living in New York, I think I'm just not as afraid of weather like that. Like I've had to commute every single day in New York City winters and take the subway into an office. So for me, I'm like, I work from home. I can usually choose when I go outside. I think we're gonna be okay. And weather was just like pretty low on my list in the grand scheme of things. Like I just wanted to live in a city that I love, that gives me energy, that I feel excited for my children to grow up in. And I think that like cultural energy and the people means a lot more to me than just the weather. So that's why we chose on Amsterdam. Okay, so we tested out for a bit. We went back to our house in Nashville and we were like, okay, like I think we want to do this, but I was pregnant with my second, or our second. And so I was like, I don't know when we actually want to make the jump. I'm not sure what actually pushed us over the edge, but what I have to say with a decision this big is I think we were just like, let's start taking baby steps towards it. And if the ball starts rolling, then it's meant to be. So it kind of goes back to like that intuitive thing. I think it's really important to like plan ahead. Like we definitely had a nest egg that we had saved up for something like this. We'd actually been saving for a second property, thinking like, oh, maybe we'll buy like a house outside of Nashville that we like rent out as an Airbnb or something. So that was like a saving pot that we had. And then as we came closer to this being a goal of ours, we're like, well, if we need to like pull money out of savings, like we have it from there, because the upfront cost was hiring an immigration lawyer to help make the process seamless. I do think we could have potentially done it on our own. That would have really terrified me because Clayton and I both had our own LLCs in America. We needed to move one of them to the Netherlands. So you have, like, we paid someone just to help us. It made it so much easier. We could just have meetings with him. He would tell us exactly what to do, what paperwork. There is so much paperwork involved. So we paid him a large sum of money, but it was like one big chunk. And everything, like even setting things up for taxes, like there's this thing called the 30% ruling that helps save us money with taxes in the first couple of years that we're here. It was moving the business over to the Netherlands, getting it set up here, getting all the paperwork approved for applying for our visas, getting our residence cards, getting our BSNs, which is like the Dutch social security cards, like just a lot of appointments in order to just legally set ourselves up. Could not recommend having an immigration lawyer more. Like that, I would be terrified that we did it wrong or that something would get messed up. It would have been so much more stressful. So it was really important to have that investment. Another financial investment we made is that we did pay a housing agency. I think it was around $2,000, maybe $2,500 for the housing agent. And I'm just saying that up front because again, I think it was worth it. We came to this point in the move where it was just kind of like, when is it worth it to do it on our own to save money, but be more stressed, or pay more money and be less stressed? And so with 2 young kids and trying to make this move, I am really glad that we had saved an amount of money to pull from, because we know that this is a long-term move for us. I would rather do things well and set ourselves up for success, that we would be happy when we landed here, knowing that long-term, that amount of money is worth it. So we paid someone because we were in the US looking at apartments. We weren't planning on coming to the Netherlands to look in person. So like, how are we gonna sign a lease if we're not here? So to pay a housing agent, he was Dutch. He went to the viewings for us, sent us an iPhone video, could negotiate all the paperwork. I knew that when I came, there was actually going to be like an actual property. We weren't gonna get scammed. That was so important for me, again, for just like my peace of mind. And we found our dream apartment. Like that was a really big part for me as we were just taking steps towards it. We basically started the application process for the visas and started looking for apartments at the same time, because we could move during the application process. You don't have to be approved yet, because the immigration lawyer was basically like, with the DAF visa, you're gonna get approved, but you can move and then finish up the process while you're here. So that's what we ended up doing. We gave ourselves some time to find the apartment. We ended up finding this one way earlier than we had planned, and so we were very quickly scrambled. I think we had like a couple of weeks once we found it to get our house up for rent and pack up all of our things. It was very chaotic. You can go back and watch some of my other vlogs when I was in that season. So when we moved here, we were still in the process of finishing our paperwork for our visas. We now have our residence cards, we have all of the things, but it did take a couple of months to get settled into all of that. So now that we are here on the DAFT visa, and that legally allows us to be here. We have our residence cards, we have basically a social security number, we have a bank account here, we have health insurance here, we have phone numbers here, so you get all of that set up. And then every 2 years, you're eligible to renew the visa. It should be easier just to renew with our lawyer since we already have everything set up. Then at 5 years, we are eligible to apply for permanent residency. You have to take a test that includes some language course. So we're going to start learning Dutch soon so that we can pass that. I would really like to become a permanent resident here. In 5 years, you are not eligible to become a dual citizen in the Netherlands. Every country is different. The Netherlands does not allow dual citizenship, so we would have to give up our US citizenship in order to become Dutch citizens, which would be like kind of scary in my opinion. We'll see how we feel about that actually in like 4.5 years. But being a permanent resident sounds great to me. I'll take it. So if you have any more questions about how we moved here and any specifics, I'm happy to share. I have gotten some inquiries around finances in general, just around like how to save money in your 20s for a big dream like this while still having fun, traveling in a way that actually maybe helps you make money, save money for the future, and then also just questions around financially how to plan for a trip like this as well, or a move like this. It's interesting because I, of course, get nervous talking about money on the internet. I feel like everyone does. But I do think it's an important conversation because my husband and I do not come from money at all. Like, we paid for our house on our own. I paid for college on my own, paid for my wedding on my own. Like, I think money and scarcity mentality has been like a big thing that I've worked through in my life. And so I'm like, God, I really probably should talk about this because I know for myself, as I work towards these goals, I sometimes get a little defeated in thinking that like, most people like have help. Like most people get like help on a down payment from their parents, or people have like a safety net or a backup plan. And I love our families and I'm so grateful for our families. We just come from big families with lots of kids, and just not the financial situation where I feel like, like if anything happened, like we could just ask for money. So that comes with like a certain, it makes you a little bit scared as you're like the grown up and you have kids and you're making big decisions. And so I do maybe want to talk about that a little bit more, because people are in the same boat. I know it would have been really encouraging for me to hear that you can still like pursue these dreams. And I know that people know that. I just think it is sometimes helpful to see how people actually make it happen. Like there was no, I didn't win like the lottery, I didn't marry a rich guy. Like there was nothing that all of a sudden made it possible for me to pursue my dreams, except for kind of just like taking one step at a time and making some sacrifices for sure. But I wouldn't say that I've been like the most frugal person. I think in my early 20s, I definitely was. I think I spent like $25 a week on groceries when I was in college and like first moved to LA. And I worked really hard. Like I think the summer before college, I worked like 60 hours a week. I was always full-time nanny and then working retail. So I definitely was like a penny pincher at some points, but I think I have learned to have more freedom with money and like trust the process and think a little bit more big picture with it. So my thoughts on money aren't necessarily like don't eat out and like don't get a coffee out and budget. I actually like don't budget, which is so scary to say out loud because I used to be such, again, like a penny pincher. And I think just in general in life, like with food, with exercise, with money, I have learned to be more intuitive and trust myself. And that instead of like not relying on restriction in order to reach my goals, and that has been really healthy for me in general. So we can talk about that if there is interest. Yeah, we can talk about money. But let me know if there's anything else that you want me to share about on how we moved here, any specifics, because I posted an Instagram poll or like question box last week, and there were like over 100 replies that were just so sweet and meant so much to me, of people just sharing like, or you all sharing what resonates with you and why you follow me. And it was like a very vulnerable thing to ask. I think I have like a weird relationship with making content where like this isn't my full-time job, this is like a thing I do on the side right now, but I've always really loved it. And recently I've just thought a little bit more about it, where I'm like, okay, I do actually have like people who watch this quite regularly and that I hear from, and I want to take it more seriously in the fact of just really thinking about what is the value that I'm bringing in this content. So anyway, I'm here for feedback. Like I want to hear, and I want you to like leave comments and let me know what you want to hear more about, so this can actually be like valuable and helpful and not just like more content to fill up the internet, because the world does not need more content. It's beautiful though. Anyway, thank you so much for your sweet comments and DMs lately. They have meant so much to me. I have definitely cried over it recently, just being like, wow, I feel like y'all really see me. So thank you. Thank you for watching. I'm gonna head to the gym now, and I hope you're having a lovely week.